Hey, everybody. I'm Chris Metzler, one of the programmers here at the Green Film Festival of San Francisco. You've just had a chance to see our wonderful Clizzy Night film, In the Whale, and we're lucky enough to have the filmmaker David Abel here. Welcome, David.
Hi, great to be with you.
Most definitely. And welcome back. We've had, I think, two of your films over the years, so it's kind of exciting to, see you continue to make really cool films.
Thank
Um, So I imagine, for, such a, WTF story, how did you kind of first kind of hear about this and how did you know that this was kind of a film you wanted to make?
So, as you know, I made two previous films, one about whales and another about lobstermen. One was called Entangled, the other one was called Lobster War. And so, naturally, when there was a collision between a lobsterman and a whale, I was interested in that story. But essentially, what happened was, as I think you also know, I've been a reporter at the Boston Globe for many years. And when my editors heard about this story, like a lot of people, they thought that it was bullshit, and so they essentially assigned me to go about debunking the story. And so I did what any reporter would do under those circumstances. I tried to talk to as many people as possible who knew Michael. I interviewed his mom, I interviewed his sisters, I interviewed the fishermen who claimed to have plucked him from the water, and I interviewed Michael at length. And I also got the 911 tapes of his mate calling in to police as they were coming in. And I had the sorry task of having to go back to my editors to tell them that, unfortunately, I thought that the story was true. And so the next day, the Globe printed what was probably the best headline to accompany a story I have ever written, which I can't take credit for because the reporters don't write the headlines. But it said, "This fish story isn't hard to swallow." So from there, I mentioned to Michael while I was reporting that story that I moonlight as a filmmaker, and that if he was interested, I would be happy to explore the idea of making a film about him.
And what was your reaction to that initially?
Well, Michael was at the time, as anyone who's seen this film knows, his story ricocheted all over the world, and he was getting bombarded by media requests uh, um, by uh, by media and TV stations from Australia to China to Brazil. I mean, all over the world, they were coming in, and and he was, not sure what he wanted to do. He was pretty much done, with all the media attention. But I was fortunate because I had a relationship with his mate, Josiah. Josiah's dad, Stormy Mayo, was one of the main characters of my last film, Entangled. And and I had developed a relationship during that time with Josiah, and he persuaded Michael to give it a shot and invited me on the boat. And I went out fishing with them in the weeks after Michael's incident with the whale, and we just kept going from there.
Very cool. To kind of step back for a moment, like, how do you see like your role as kind of a journalist is compared to when you kind of put your filmmaker cap on, like, where's the intersection and where do you think they kind of, differ?
It's a good question. To be honest, I don't actually see much of a difference. It's just a different kind of medium and a different way of telling stories. And the kind of films that I like to make, I see them as journalism, and they are trying to tell important, moving, compelling stories in as honest and authentic a way as I know how to do. And this film, in the whale, was different than a lot of my other films, which have been more policy oriented. I just also released a new film called Inundation District, which is about the about decisions that one city made to spend billions of dollars building an entirely new urban district at sea level on landfill and hard on the coast, despite having more climate scientists per capita than probably any other city on the planet, and that is our city where I live, Boston, and our decision to build this new seaport district, which was dubbed the Innovation District, and the title of our film is Inundation District. And that is a more policy-oriented kind of film, and this film is more of a portrait.
And with as you kind of were kind of pulling together the different threads for the for In the Whale, was there anything that you kind of like over the course of making the film that kind of most surprised you, or that I guess didn't conform to kind of the expectations of what you thought the story was when you started to dig in?
Yeah, so when I first started on this film project, I really wasn't sure at the outset what there was left to say. That first day I went out with Michael, I wasn't really sure whether there was a film there, because Michael's story ricocheted all over the world, and it was quite overexposed. And I thought, I don't know what more I can add to it. And then after I got time with Michael and got to observe him, I got a deeper sense of him and got to think that if I could spend enough time with him, if I could go through the seasons with him, maybe I could make a film that looks at what happens to a human being like Michael, a reclusive fisherman, who is thrust into the international limelight, and then what happens to someone like him when that spotlight dims or fades away. And so that was what I was trying to do. And it wasn't, to answer your question more directly about what was surprising, it wasn't really clear to me what the film, what sort of the lasting idea, or what the film would leave viewers with. And it wasn't until the end of the cutting process that I came to think of this as a love story. And when I say a love story, I see this at bottom as a film about a fisherman's love for the sea, a son's love for his mom, a father's love for his kids. And ultimately, it is that love that gets him through those harrowing moments in the mouth of the whale, but also gets him through the other meaning of the title of the film being In the Whale of Depression. And so that was what I think surprised me the most.
Well, neat. Well, thanks again for making this film and kind of taking that leap of faith. It was exciting to see, and I think one of the things we always try to celebrate with our festivals, obviously, we as humans are part of the environment too, and we're all navigating these things. So it was a neat story to kind of see with all these different kind of intersections. So definitely excited to see what you're up to next, David. And then for those of us that want to kind of maybe check out some of your older films or kind of continue to follow your writing, what's the best way to do that?
So if you go to my website, davidsabel, abel.com, you can find links to all the trailers of our films, and those films that have a home online will be there. One of my other film, Inundation District, will be broadcast nationally on PBS next week, October 7th. Wow. And otherwise, my films should be readily available in lots of places.
Very cool. Well, thanks again, David, and thanks again for joining us.
My pleasure. Thank you. Just a quick question for you.
Mm-hmm.